7, ojo, 9, 10.
On the Mariners supporters, blows his whistle. George Moncur steps up and scores! Bottom corner of the net. The goalkeeper was very close, and it's John. He lets in a low cross, and a spin turn in, and Leyton Orient just back on level terms. Come to James, he shoots. Oh, and a goal from Tom James. That was a volley, and that was. It's a low cross. It's an inviting cross, and it's been turned in by Theo Archibald, and he celebrates in front of the travelling faithful.
Welcome to Orient Live. It is another massive Tuesday night under the lights here at Brisbane Road as the O's are facing the bottom of the table side, Rochdale, and love is in the air. It's a very special fixture tonight, Valentine's Day of course, and we're going to be bringing you every single second of the action right here on Orient Live. And how great does that pitch look on here in E10 tonight? And I'm delighted to be joined by my two lovers, Brendan Pitcher and Andrew Butler. So boys, the atmosphere is building. It's an exciting one and hopefully a winnable one.
There's three of us in this relationship, is there really? Yeah, I mean it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a really good game. Top versus bottom is a situation that you obviously would have taken at this stage of the season all day long. But Rochdale are a funny old side because we can't take them lightly. They had a really, really good result against Northampton at the weekend, and we'll come on to speaking about them a little bit later on. But they're going to provide a sterner test than I think a lot of people will expect this evening. But it's a game that I think we almost should be described as a must-win, because you have to be winning games like tonight.
Well, the fans and the players will be thinking that alike, and rightly so. We picked up some decent form recently and some good results too.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you look at this fixture, top versus bottom, I think you will describe it as a must-win. I think you've got to look at these kind of games now until the end of the season. So we've had that Saturday, Tuesday, when we're coming towards the end of it. We had a very good return. I think Walsall was a good point in the championship. And now you target these two home games against beatable opposition and say we've got to be getting maximum points. If we can go into the end of February on 70 points or even better, it's a wonderful position.
And of course, don't forget, if you're watching live on our YouTube stream, then tonight is available to watch for UK and international fans. Head over and pick up your stream there. And if you're not at a romantic dinner this evening, then, well, you have got your priorities right. So thank you for joining us. Let's take a look at how the home side will be lining up for this evening's fixture. In goal, as always, for Leyton Orient is number 22, Lawrence Vigouroux. We have a back four of Tom James, number 2, number 19, Omar Beckles, number 43. The man of the match in the last couple of games is Ed Turn, and 24, Jaden Sweeney. In the midfield, battling this evening is number 15, Idris El Mazouni, and number 8, Craig Clay. And the three behind the striker for us this evening is number 11, Theo Archibald, 34, Kieran Sadlier, and number 10, Ruel Sotirio. And leading the line for the O's is number 16, Aaron Drynan. And on the bench for Leyton Orient is Reece Byrne, Shadrach Oji, Adam Thompson, George Moncur, Jordan Lyden, Charlie Kelman, and Harrison Soji. So, a change for the O's tonight, and one that is an interesting one.
Yeah, it gives Ruel Sotirio an opportunity in there. I think he's come off the bench and played reasonably well in recent weeks. I think what Richie said after the game on Saturday must be true in terms of he's performing really, really well in training, and that's what we've got to see. We've got to see a little bit more from Ruel Sotirio in the same way that someone like George Moncur picked up his game recently. I think he wasn't in the best form until the last few games, but he's really picked up. He looks more like the old George Moncur. If we can see the old Ruel Sotirio today, then we've got so many great options to have going into the final stage of the season.
Still fairly consistent as well though, Andrew. The defence is unchanged, a very similar midfield to recent games, and that, as we said earlier, they've been performing and kind of we want to continue that form.
Yeah, and I think that we probably, I mean, look, getting the 2 wins back to back with 2 clean sheets, and then the late draw against Walsall at the weekend was suggests that we're out of that blip that we had, or as Richie called it, dry January last Saturday. But I think that we have to be winning games like against Rochdale and against Crawley here on Saturday to really kind of suggest that we are out of the blip. Obviously the form was so poor in January that it didn't take much. It only took 1 or 2 wins, but we are top of the league for a reason. But we have to keep pressing, we have to keep going, and say to the rest of the league, look, we're top, and we want to stay top, and we also just want to extend that gap to a level that it was at beforehand. We kind of let a little bit of ground slip to the rivals that have been there or thereabouts in terms of 3rd and 4th place, but a game like today is prime for us to really nail that advantage and go home happy.
And let's talk about the defence as well, of course, because we did start leaking a couple of goals and had a few shaky performances and injuries and suspensions, but the back four has impressed in the last few games especially.
Yeah, I think the 2 young lads coming in have made a difference. I think Jaden Sweeney's always been a player that we've always liked around the club, and probably been a little bit more unfortunate we haven't seen enough of. And he's really taken his chance now with Rob Hunt's injury, and then obviously Omar Beckles coming back from suspension has been a blessing for us, because his leadership in there is so important. He's such a good defender, and then obviously Ed Turns, I think we're going to highlight now.
No, well, let's start just with the stat of 19 clean sheets. We're miles ahead of anyone. You may as well give Lawrence the Golden Glove now. It's a joke, the amount of clean sheets, especially that defensive record here in E10.
Yeah, I mean, we still haven't conceded a goal at home since October. It's a phenomenal record. I think it might push over 1,000 minutes today if we can keep a clean sheet, and that is an absolute phenomenal record. You talk about the clean sheets. I think the EF or the League 2 record is 24 clean sheets. We're on 19 already. Is it possible? I think so.
Big talk from Brendan there. And one man who's been contributing to the clean sheets, he's been contributing to the goals as well. The name on everyone's lips is Ed Turns.
Yeah, I mean, he joined the club and it looked like he was just going to be Dan Happy's cover until the end of the season and try and see us through to where we want to get towards the end of the season. Everyone knew that he was a good player, but in terms of kind of what you see from the player, none of us really can say that we've seen a lot of Brighton's under-21s and Brighton's reserves, but because he's come through a system like Brighton's, you know that he's going to be, a good ball player, come from a club who's, who are going from strength to strength and also, make their players play in a particular way, and he's fitted in so well. We'll see that from the clips on the screen now. Not just the balls that he wins in defence. It's the way that he finds players as well from his clearances. He's got a calmness about him that suggests, I think this one in particular, he just stays in the right place. He forces the attackers to make the decision that they probably don't want to be making, and starts to move at the same time. It's such an impressive skill set to have. And then you get on to what he's done at the other end of the pitch, which is goals. And look, he's apparently a left-footed player. These two goals are with his right foot, including this one from the weekend, which is just an absolutely stunning strike. I mean, there's no other words for it. To be able to get the ball out of his feet, which zips at him really, and then to finish like that and to level the game as well. Let's remember that we struggled in the first half of Saturday, came on strong in the second half, but still lacked that goal until the 83rd minute. And so, things go well for a club when your centre back is scoring goals. We shouldn't be relying on them, of course, but it suggests that you can get goals from across the pitch. You think about the fact that Omar Beckles scored that vital goal against Stockport away. It just makes things a nightmare for oppositions because they're attacking them, they're marking the attacking players, and then all of a sudden your centre back comes up and does something like that. It's nice to have in a locker, that's for sure.
It certainly is, and you've got to kind of give him even more credit because you look at Saturday's game against Walsall and him and Jayden Sweeney, the two young defenders. You could say they were targeted and that they came through that really well.
Yeah, he's certainly someone with a lot of character. Look, you can see by the fact that he's Welsh under-21 captain. That shows he's got that leadership. People trust him. And I think you look at that Stevenage game. It was a tough one for everyone that day, but to be part of the defence that conceded 3 goals that day and had a bit of a nightmare in all honesty, and to come back in the way he has, shows amazing character. That Stevenage game was only his second ever appearance in first team football, so to go and do that and perform the way he has over the last 2 games shows that he's a real prospect, and that's why Brighton probably rate him so highly.
And Craig Clay and Idris Elmazuni keeping their spots in midfield. They're the two that will be looking to win their battle this evening.
Yes, so much energy between those two. I think it's really tenacious too, and what it's kind of allowed with Craig Clay buzzing about, winning tackles, doing his usual job, it's given Elmazuni a little bit more freedom, I think, to kind of play a little bit more, be a little bit more creative, push up the field, drive up the field, and he's been brilliant. For me, I thought Turns was excellent against Crewe, but I thought Elmazuni was my man of the match. I thought he was absolutely superb out there, and I think since I said it before, but that sending off against Stevenage might have been a little bit of a blessing in disguise in terms of just give him a little bit of a break, a little bit of a rest. He's played a lot of football this season in one of his first seasons in the game, and he looks refreshed and ready to go again now.
It certainly does. And then that setup of the other 3 in midfield just behind the striker, that's the interesting one because I think any of them can play anywhere.
Yeah, and I think we were struggling for goals, but I think what we've shown in recent weeks is that the attacking threat is back. Teams will be wary of us. I think when you look at it from the opposition's point of view tonight, what do Rochdale want from today's game? A point, probably, and it means that they probably will come up and set up to defend. I mean, fair play to them, and you got to applaud it if they come out and try to attack us at a stadium where, like Brendan says, we haven't conceded in over 900 minutes. So it'll be interesting to see how they set up, but. In terms of the players behind that striker for us, it's really good to see, and it's another thing with someone like Sadia against Crewe last Tuesday. Had a really excellent game. And obviously it takes a couple of games for players to get used to playing in a team and playing in a system. But he looks like another decent January signing, and just a player who just adds to the squad and adds to the squad depth. So hopefully he can provide something half as good as last Tuesday. Then we'll be on to a good thing.
Did you insinuate just a second ago you think this one might be a fairly low-scoring, scrappy one with a good home defence and probably a side settling for a point?
I mean, I think yes, but purely because Rochdale, haven't really been conceding. Well, not conceding many, but they haven't been losing games by huge margins. I think every so often in League Two, you get teams who have really struggled financially off the pitch. You think of games like Scunthorpe at home last season, when you just knew you were going to score 3 or 4 goals against them. Whereas Rochdale, have been poor this season. There's no getting around that, but they haven't been like absolutely abysmal. They haven't been falling apart, So they're down there for a reason, but they will provide a real, a tough enough game for us tonight.
It will be tough, but we'll be looking for some magic and some sparks to create the game. Andrew mentions Kieran Sadlier. We know what Theo Archibald can do, and we know what Sotirio is capable of. Sadlier is the one we're really starting to see what he's about.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm interested to see where he's going to play tonight. I think, like you said, those 3 are all interchangeable. It'll be interesting once the game kicks off to see if Sotirio goes out onto the left and Sadlier takes up the number 10 position, whether there's a little bit of interchange in there. And Sadlier, look, Andrew said it already, he was brilliant against Crewe, and he was a little bit off it in the first half, like the whole team, but once he got going in that second half, he just looks a class above at this level, and he dovetails so nicely with Moncur. It's a shame that Monker's not playing today, but he's going to be looking to build that relationship now with someone like Sotirio.
And we'll be looking at all 3 of them to create chances for Aaron Drine. And we've been saying the last few weeks, the strikers need more chances. If Drine can get them tonight, hopefully he'll be putting them away because he needs some.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the one thing that's been missing from this little mini revival we've had. We've had some really, really good results, some good performances. Just haven't had a goal from the striker yet. But I'm confident it's coming. I think Aaron Drinan, he's getting fitter all the time. He's coming back from injury. He just needs to match kind of that work rate with just a little bit more quality and in the final third.
He looked really up for it in that game against Wimbledon when he came on. He looked really lively. You hope it could be the same again tonight in front of the home crowd.
Yeah, and right from the start as well. I mean, that's what you should be able to expect from your striker. But it's been something that we've said a lot already. Over the course of the season, it's that role, that position on the pitch is available to a player who stamps their authority and makes it their own. And we've gone from Kelman to Drinan to Kelman to a bit of Sotirio, and it's not really stuck for any of them so far this season. And you really want. You kind of want a player to be selfish in that regard and just say, look, this is my spot, and you've really got to take it off me. And the only way that you keep it your own as a striker is by scoring goals. And so he's been incredibly enterprising. He's been lively. He's been, the way that he put himself out about against Wimbledon, who are a team who know how to put themselves about a bit. Was superb, because that game was all about closing it out, and he did superbly in that fixture to help the team get all 3 points. But the goals matter, and hopefully he will score or at least contribute in that regard.
Well, one man who will certainly be hoping that Aaron Driner can refine some scoring form is the Orient manager Richie Wellens. He caught up with Luke Lambourne to give his thoughts ahead of the game.
See, in football we always try and take it one game at a time, but it does feel like this week in particular is a really big one.
No, we can't look too far ahead. Crawley's in 5 or 6 days' time. We need to make sure that we're on it tomorrow. And I'll repeat, this level, you need to do foundations, you need to do the basics right. And if you do that, we're playing against a difficult team. Rochdale, I went to watch them away at Bradford. They beat Bradford on that night. There was a couple of minutes away from beating Northampton at the weekend, and Carlisle beat them 1-0. Sorry, it was every game that they're playing, he's just one goal here or there. So they're in games. Jim's gone in there and made them a little bit more solid and more difficult to beat. So it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be. Everyone thinks at top of the league versus bottom, it's going to be free. It doesn't work like that. These are a difficult team to beat. They've got some experience in a team, and when you've got experience in a team, they know how to stay in games. And I think that's in the last 5 or 6 weeks they've stayed in games. Would have liked more points than what they've got, but it's a difficult game.
Where in particular do you think Rochdale's key strengths are?
Well, I think in Rodney, Quigley and Henderson's someone who I've worked with before. They have goals in them. Like I said, they've got experience. In Rodney, they have pace and power. Quigley's a big size and difficult to play against, and Henderson's a poacher. So Danny Lloyd's a good player who's recovering from a long-term injury. You know, I watched their game back against Northampton. He's bright, finds clever pockets. So yeah, they've got a number of players that can impact this level.
In terms of your side, obviously, last couple of games, Crewe, and in particular that second half of Walsall, has been a lot more, I guess, fluency in the way the team are attacking. Is that kind of the key to tomorrow night's game?
Well, I think because of that, the reason is because we've had consistency in our team selection, and you can actually work on stuff and build on it. When we had that period where we keep completely chopping and changing, and then we'll pick a team, and on Friday it changes, or we pick a team, and then in a warm-up it changes. That can be not off-putting, but it can just take you out your rhythm, and we certainly found that. So I think we're in a good place. The performance levels are really, really good. I think if you look across our team, Ed and Bex are forming a good partnership, both full-backs. Even though we've asked TJ to play a little bit deeper at the moment, he's performing really well. Sweens has given us a really good outlet, whether it be Craig and Iddy, Leyden, Iddy, or Pratt's obviously who's a bit struggled recently with his injury. Then really effective. Monks looks like he's got his mojo back. Sad has come in and had a real impact on the team. Theo's just scored. Ruel looks brilliant at the moment in training, and when he comes off his bench, you know, we've got two strikers in Kelman and Drizzt. If we make chances, he will score goals. So I don't know if we missed anyone out there, but there's a lot of players in really good form and feeling good about themselves, whether it be in training and then they're taking it into games. So
Top stuff there from Richie, and of course don't forget, if you purchase your match stream, we'll be hearing his thoughts straight after the game, so make sure you do that and join us after the match for that one. And of course tickets for this Saturday's game, it's another home one here in E10, and the O's face Crawley Town. That's sure to be an exciting one, so you can pick up your tickets or your match pass streaming for that one. But first, today is JE3 Day, of course very close to all of our hearts here at Leyton Orient FC. Let's find out a little bit more about the work that they do.
I support Justin's law.
I fully support Justin's law.
I support Justin's law.
I support Justin's law.
I support Justin's law.
I support Justin's law. Make defibrillators compulsory in sports facilities. Absolute common sense, no-brainer. Make it happen.
I support Justin's law.
I definitely support Justin's law.
I absolutely support Justin's law.
I support Justin's law.
I support Justin's law.
I support Justin's law.
I absolutely support Justin's law.
I absolutely support Justin's law.
Justin's law is creating the next generation of lifesavers. So, I support Justin's law. Do you?
Fantastic stuff there from the guys at JE3 Foundation. Of course, if you want to donate, head over to @JE3 Foundation. Now, let's take a look at how the away side will be lining up here at Brisbane Road this evening. So for Rochdale, starting in goal is number 1, Richard O'Donnell. We have number 5, Max Taylor. We have number 11, Abraham Odo. Number 13, Jimmy Keohan. Number 16, Reece Bennett. Number 18, Scott Quigley. Number 20, Tumani Diaguara. Number 23, Owen Dogson. We have number 25, Danny Lloyd. Number 26, Toby Malarkey. And number 40, Ian Henderson. And on the bench for Rochdale is Eastwood, Sariki, Ebanks Landell, Kelly, Ball, Mellor and Campbell. So that is how Rochdale will be lining up this evening. Apologies, we don't have the line-up graphic for you there, but you can take my word for it. That's how they're lining up. Now, we've spoken about how it's top versus bottom, but that could be a little bit deceiving.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, it's a fact, for one, but it could be deceiving in so much as, you know, Rochdale have been all right, as in, you know, they've not been catastrophically bad, but you have to say 45 points separating the two teams. You know, we've had enough games this season to win games with just a little bit more like guile, a little bit, you know, just a little bit extra quality, which is basically what Rochdale have been lacking so far this season. You look across the pitch, they haven't, you know, there's no real kind of like, you know, standout names. There's a couple like Ian Henderson, but like, you know, he's now 38 years old. He's getting on a bit. But there's, you know, you look at the Rochdale team and they kind of just haven't been able to put together a team or a squad that challenges in most games so far this season. So it will be tricky because they have picked up in recent weeks, and I think they'll take a bit of encouragement. I think a little bit of that comes from the grouping down there at the bottom of the table, Gillingham picking up some results, and seeing Rochdale go to the bottom of the table, will have given them a little bit of a kick in the right direction, and so we just need to be on our guard. Northampton are an incredibly difficult team, and they got a really good draw against them. In fact, probably were unlucky not to win that game. So, and that was just at the weekend. So they'll take some encouragement from that, but with any luck, we should have enough.
I mean, what way do you want to look at that one? Because yes, it was a good draw against Northampton, but lost late on. So, is it a confidence boost, or confidence could still be a little bit shot from it?
Yeah, I think they've got to take the confidence from it, knowing that Northampton are up there with us, and knowing that they can compete against those kind of sides in the division. I think they're an alright side, like Andrew says. Like, their games are quite fine margins. It's normally one goal in it. I think they've only lost by more than one goal twice since September. So in Jim Bentley, they've got a manager who's been here and done it in League Two survival with the underdogs, with Morecambe many times before, and that's what they'll be hoping he can do again as we go into these final stages.
They won't have much confidence in their defence, however, though, Brendan.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some of the goals they've conceded now, and some of it is a little bit calamitous. And I think we're saying about they're only losing by the odd goal, they're not conceding bucket loads, but the goals they are conceding, they're not great goals to concede, as we're seeing from the clips here. And I think the goalkeeper's probably played a part in that. I think their goalkeeper, Jake Eastwood, has been playing most weeks, and that's coincided with a really poor run of form, but unfortunately for us, he's been dropped. He got dropped against Northampton, and they managed to pick up a 1-1 draw that day, and now they've got Richard O'Donnell in, who is a much more capable, sturdy keeper for this level, and I think he's been better for them. And I think we're seeing from here a set-piece goal they've conceded in terms of the second phase, and they're not a very good side at defending set-pieces. If I was Richie Wellens, that's somewhere you've got to be targeting, because if you look at the stats, they've conceded 23 goals from set-pieces this season, which is a ridiculous amount of goals. It's 7 more than anyone else in the EFL, so that's really where they can be targeted. I think if I'm Richie Wellens, if I'm Paul Terry, if I'm Matt Harrold, I'm devising some new routines today. I'm going to try and test them, because it's not good stuff back there in terms of defending.
It's just about having, really having a go at them. Their heads will drop. They give up so many opportunities, and you don't want to. We don't want to see a performance from us that we've had so far this season, like a couple of times this season, where we just haven't created anything. If we create chances, we will score a goal or two tonight, because Rochdale's defence has been poor a lot of this season.
I think what's important today as well is that we've got this kind of thing recently where we start very slowly, and it's been a thing for about 2 or 3 months now, whether we get good results or we get bad results. Normally, the first 10-20 minutes, we are quite slow and we grow into a game. But if you're playing a side like Rochdale, who come off the back of a decent result on the weekend, a little bit of confidence, I think we've got to shut them down early. We've got to start the game quickly with a tempo, get an early goal, and it could be any score for us, because their heads will go down from there.
And in terms of that, they're also fighting for their lives, and in a sense, there's no real pressure on them tonight, and that they will just be fighting and scrapping and giving it their all.
I think that's, you're completely right, because if you're coming away, a fairly long journey to come to the league leaders who've just picked up their form, then you're really kind of expecting not a lot, which does alleviate some of the pressure. If they were playing against teams down the bottom, those sort of games become 6-pointers. Whereas for them, a game like today is kind of a low pressure game. It's not these kind of games that are going to keep them in the league. It's going to be ones further down the line. We just have to be really, really wary of that, because they will have taken great encouragement from that result against Northampton at the weekend. They'll come here not feeling too much pressure, and as long as we play like the pressure's not entirely on us, because I think that's one area of our game, is that we've come into some games where you can just tell that the pressure's all on us to go out and play, and all on us to go and win, and it sometimes has stifled us a couple of times this season. So we want to put on a decent performance for the fans that have come this evening, especially for it's Kids for a Quid. So I remember, this is a long time ago, Ollie, but I came to a game like this when I was about 10 years old, and it was games like this that made me into an Orient fan. If you can believe such a thing? But it's put on a good performance and send everyone home happy.
And the players are ready and waiting in the tunnel. But Brendan, there's characters in this squad that will be well up for tonight. As Andrew says, a lot of faces in the ground. They'll be wanting to put on a show. Theo Valentine Archibald name, of course, it's his night. He wants to put on a show tonight, and you guess he will.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to push on now, get maximum points today to really emphasise this run we've been on.
Well, hopefully a show is put on for you tonight here in E10. But now it is time to pass over to our very capable hands of Dave Victor and Matt Hiscock.
Get that mud off that.
Crawley here on Saturday, but Matt Hiscock, you can be sure that Richie Wellens will not be taking anything for granted.
Yeah, he talked about it in his pre-match build-up, didn't he? Obviously making sure there's no complacency, and I think Orient fans of old, these are the